Chaplain Minor. Chaplain Newton, it's good to have you with us again this evening. I know we've spoken on the phone a couple of times, and it's good to see your face, and looking forward to continued fellowship and working relationship as we move forward with the discussions we've been having. I'd like to introduce you to our Chaplain Corps Staff College, our virtual staff college. We have about 130 folk from all over the nation that have tuned in tonight, and we're thankful for the fact that you can be with us. So for our attendees, Chaplain Newton is the commandant of the Air Force Chaplain Corps College at Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama. And he has been appointed there by Chaplain Scheich and is having a wonderful ministry there. And we are thankful that he is in that position and we are able to work together with some new ideas and hopefully some transformational challenges and ideas as we move forward with our relationship at the Chaplain Corps College. So you folk want to hear from him, not me. So let me turn it over to Chaplain Newton. Again, welcome, sir, and God bless you as you present what's on your heart.
Thank you, Chaplain Murdoch. It's an honor, sir, to be in your cohort. I feel like a kindred spirit. We all have the spirit of a chaplain rolling through our veins and our heart. And that's what brings us together. So I want to give a great word of appreciation to Chaplain Minor. A lot of things in good hands there, sir. So what I'd like to do tonight is kind of lay out for you as a community the way the Air Force Chaplain Corps looks at the role of a military chaplain. And I think there's some powerful distinctions. There's also some powerful correlations to your ministry. And I hope that you can draw from this, identify, resonate. This is basically the model that we use. We approach education and training our chaplains and religious affairs airmen when they come through the college at all different stages in their career progression. So what I want to share with you is based off of a foundation that they start with at the officer training school. I won't go into all of that, but it's basically 8.5 weeks of a lot of powerful lessons for life and shaping of the mind and the body to prepare to build on top of that this idea of being a military chaplain in the Air Force, which is where we come in at the college. We take them after OTS. But everything that we use, that we train them and educate them at the college is built off that foundation. Many of you, this resonates with you. You have prior military experience, perhaps as an officer, and wherever you served, it started with officer training school. So as I roll through some of these areas, I know that you'll resonate with this. So let's just walk through this. And I've modified this slightly for the audience here, and I think it's going to be brief enough, but I look forward to any questions or comments you may have afterwards as we go forward. And I concur with what Chaplain Scheich, my boss, and Chaplain Murdoch, your boss, has said about going forward. We're on the beginning stages of this discussion, but it's a commendable discussion, and I am grateful for all those who want to start it. So what does a chaplain look like as a professional? Perhaps first we talk about what does it mean to be a professional? And when I use the word professional here, I do not mean, good staff work necessarily, proper protocols of engaging in your ministry as a chaplain. That's all part of it. That's more about skill and experience, polish, things like that. But as a profession, as a civilian ministry professional, as a chaplain to a specific group of people, what does it mean to be a professional, to be called a professional and be called upon to bring that knowledge and expertise? So let's take a look at that. If you could advance that, Chaplain Murdoch. So what I want to refer to is it starts in the work of Andrew Abbott. He really kind of outlined this a couple of decades ago, and it's kind of become the academic standard. It isn't necessarily sacred at all. It comes out in, I think, the humanities, in education. And he discovered that looking at a society that is growing and providing for its people, is economically strong, provides opportunities, has religious freedom, is economically growing, is a strong state, can provide things for its citizens. They must have a group of professionals, and here's the standard that his research produced. The first thing you have to have is expert knowledge, and it's knowledge that somebody's willing to pay for that they don't necessarily have. And we go get qualified. You all, as endorsed chaplains, you'll have that master's degree. That's that expert knowledge. And if you go back and look at the constitution of most masters of divinity, it is a cross-section of many skill sets that will be expected of you when you actually go into your area of ministry. For me, my master's of divinity beyond my bachelor's was another 120 hours. I'm sure some of you probably had that, or maybe a little bit more. The Air Force Chaplain Corps standard, and it's also a DoD standard, Army, Navy, Air Force, is 72 hours as a minimum. Expert knowledge. And in this case, for the Air Force, when they're brought on to active duty, the Guard or Reserve, and given a commission, that's what the Air Force, the Department of Defense, is paying for. The knowledge about religion, about how people interact with it, the transcendent, the ability to deal with people, counsel with them, be present with them, and many other kinds of things that we could talk for a long time about. That's really the expert knowledge that tell you how to do it, when to do it, why to do it, and many other questions like that. The second thing that Abbott discovered, and that we use as a basis here at the Chaplain Corps College, in addition to providing them skilled, laser-like knowledge to add to their Masters of Divinity about being a military chaplain, we provide them expert knowledge about that, is this idea of having a jurisdiction or a space that has been granted for you to come into and provide that expert knowledge, in your case as volunteers, or the work as members who are paid, as well as individuals under orders. And so our unique jurisdiction in the military, the Air Force chaplaincy, is perhaps a squadron or a base, a wing, and places like that, whether it's in garrison or in a deployed location. So for the Civil Air Patrol, your jurisdiction would be with your wings there as well, right? These are the cadets who work this, who are pursuing their aspirations in Civil Air Patrol, as well as the professionals who work to bring them along and actually perform your mission for the nation. That is your jurisdiction. For me as an Air Force chaplain, mine is on a military installation with military members, under orders to a commander as a commissioned officer. The third thing that must come together and coalesce that Abbott found was that professionals must have a unique set of standards and a system of accountability to those standards. So if you go back and look at our license as clergy, I assume all of you have a license to do what you do beyond the Civil Air Patrol, if you're a licensed individual, minister. And it is that body that represents that accountability and the standards by which they gave you that license. And this is also true in not just the ministry of the church and the soul, but also in other areas of our life and our communities And I want to kind of walk you through that to show you some of the comparisons. So if you could advance that, Chaplain Minor. We probably all recognize that as the Opera House in Sydney and the harbor. And it is a fantastic piece of architecture. It catches the eye. It's probably world renowned. It brings to mind my own personal experience. I haven't had the joy of going there, but I sure would recognize it if I set foot in Australia, in Sydney. I'd know where I was. And it reminds me of some ministry that I had as the wing chaplain at the Air Force Academy. Perhaps you've had a chance to go on that campus, and that beautiful chapel, which is now in current repair status for another year or two. It is an iconic chapel, not just in the DoD, but really in the world. So these examples talk about the engineering, the architecture by individuals who had to create this beautiful design that represented a spirit of what the creator of this building wanted, but they had to make it worthy to have human beings in it, right? It had to have experts, engineers, make sure that the structure of it would hold the load that was placed upon the walls, the ceiling, and so forth, as well as the acoustics, right? And so these engineers, these architects were certified, and I suspect many people who worked on the internal structure of it, whether it's the electrical system, the lighting, which would take expertise there as well. So that's a formal type of professional status that we all count upon, right? We enjoy that experience. I wish I had more time to really talk to the 130 plus folks out there to see if anyone's gone and what their experience was like in the facility. It would be a kind of a bucket list kind of thing. Chaplain Minor, could you move to the next slide? Now, this is, I don't know the location here, and if you do, perhaps you could come up on the chat there and type that in. But what I wanted to show here, this is a footbridge across a treacherous river that I'm sure it rises and falls based on the flow upstream. And this has been engineered. You can see the guy wires there, the foundation across that. I hope it was constructed under the auspices and oversight of a professional engineer, a certified professional engineer, because harm can come to people when professionals are not held accountable to the standards, but they have expert knowledge and maybe they stray from that, or they don't really have all the expert knowledge they claim they do. And so to keep all that tight and neat so that no one comes to harm, we have professionals who are certified. Let's go to the next slide real quick. Well, that is an airplane, and the top left and the bottom is inside a vehicle, an automobile engineer, looking at systems like braking, restraint systems, and so forth. And both of these experiences that you see there really have the oversight of a professional engineer as well, aerodynamic engineer, as well as just scores of others to put an airplane together. It takes many types of engineers, as well as an automobile engineer. I remember my oldest sister and I were going to my youngest brother's graduation. He's graduating from Houghton College in upstate New York. And shout out to anyone who's out there from that state currently, or hails from there, or even Houghton College. So we were flying up, and we were supposed to land, I believe we landed in Buffalo, and we're going to get in a car and go across the hamlets there to get into Houghton in upstate. And as we were coming into the area, we had to fly over Lake Erie. I had never flown over Lake Erie before. It's a beautiful, vast, it looks like an ocean, but it's really a lake. But it's a monstrosity of a lake. It's huge and has all kinds of weather systems, apparently. Many of you could talk about that. Well, it was my first experience, and everything was great on the flight. It was a beautiful sunny day when we departed Atlanta. And as we started to descend into the airport to land, things got quite different. I looked out the window as we got into around 10,000 feet. I could just see a bunch of gray. And then we started bumping and rocking, and then we started going up and down in our seats quite a bit. And there was, when I looked out the window, there was something going sideways past my window, and it was heavy rain, and it was in the summer. I didn't expect that. And we kept bouncing up and down in our seats, and the pilot gave instructions to the crew to kind of batten down the hatches, and people were kind of giving gasp. The bottom line is we landed safely. When we came through the clouds, it was probably an ILS 1, 2, maybe 3, Category 3 landing in the rain, in treacherous weather. And as we were leaving the airplane, you know, the senior members of the flight crew, the pilot and I guess the senior host, were at the end of the runway there, and as we were walking out, and my older sister said, kind of mumbled under her breath when she looked at the pilot, who was an older gentleman. I gotta be careful what I say, I'm kind of in that category now. And she saw his gray hair and she said, boy, thank God for those white-headed pilots. And really, that's a certification that they have with experience going through many scenarios that were probably more severe than that qualifies them to land in certain conditions with individuals in the back as in their air transport pilot license. If you could advance the slide, Chaplain Minor. Now, this is an example of a medical board certificate for a practicing physician. And the purpose of this is just to show you, if you look in the bottom right, it's numbered. And I can only assume because of the Hippocratic Oath and the nature of their work as a physician and qualification as a surgeon, that there are strict, stringent standards on this that are reported on yearly or something close to that, as well as other maybe inspections that they have to go through to maintain the status and the title of physician and surgeon, that they're a board certified in these areas. So all of these point to this idea that there is expert knowledge that someone's willing to pay for. There is a jurisdiction, a place to apply that, and there is an accountable set of standards that they're held to constantly to get better. So that is what we use in the Air Force, Chaplain Corps College, as we look at the curriculum that we develop for our new chaplains, as well as those moving up through the ranks. Is this going to give them a sense of expertise for our commanders who expect certain skill sets in addition to the pastoral care that they provide, the expertise on religious accommodation, religious freedom, religious liberty. The chaplain is the commander's expert at the squadron, the group, and the wing level, and they look to them, and when they see them and they need something from them, this is what they're looking for. And they assume that they got it at the schoolhouse, that that they're giving them a jurisdiction through their wing chaplain, a set of units or squadrons, and that their endorser, which most wing commanders I know are very savvy about what that looks like, and the relationship between the chaplain and his or her endorser, and their role, which is different. They expect that to happen and that the standards and accountability be put there. They also bring standards and accountability in their role as a military officer, and that is the role of the commander, that we must meet those standards as well, because the chaplain in the military is under orders. They are not under orders to say certain kinds of things religiously that are beyond their license or their ordination. Don't hear me say that. That would be incorrect. That's not what they're asked to do. But they are held to standards, being under orders to develop a broad spectrum of religious programs, or go get other religious experts to meet the needs of the people if they can't provide it themselves. So if you could advance the slide one more time, Chaplain Minor. So I take you back to this, and my question ultimately is just kind of as a motivation, in what you do as a Civil Air Patrol chaplain, think about that. Are you a professional by these standards? Please be affirmed by this. I believe you could say yes to that. I know that's what we strive for on the Air Force side, and our jurisdiction is unique to us, and therefore our training and education is unique to that. because of what's expected of us when they say, hey, chaplain, we need your help. You know, when we help and provide spiritual care to airmen, like Chaplain Shaik was talking about, I don't think they really think so much about it because they're in crisis or stress or in transition in their life. They just want a listening ear and a sense of presence. And we provide that. But underneath all of that is this equipped, trained individual that brings with it a profession of being a military chaplain, which is a combination of who they are as a licensed, ordained civilian ministry professional, which they never give up. And they have now adapted and brought on top of that, the expertise of a military chaplain so that commanders can call upon them and they can deliver what they need them to deliver for their airmen. So this is my presentation to you. And I say again, as we go forward with your fine cohort, what we're trying to determine is where are the places that you can support in our jurisdiction as Air Force chaplains. Everything that we teach at the college is based off the assumption that they've been to officer training, and it's designed to build on top of that, because when they get out and use those skills, they're now working for a commander, and they're going to expect those kinds of standards and training as well. But there are some things I can tell you right now, as Chaplain Shaik mentioned, in terms of supporting for military funerals. What we're doing at the college is we are recording pretty much all of our content, COVID-19 and what we call our stop movement action, which doesn't allow students to come down here. We're doing what you're doing right now on Zoom for our classes. And that has been really an expansion of our minds and possibilities. But we're doing pretty well with that. We have a class on the ground, as we say. Right now, it's got a couple more days. It's 2 weeks long for our deputy wing chaplains. And it is our first virtual learning environment. And it's going pretty well, frankly. We use the Zoom platform. We call all those squares out there, Chaplain Minor, we call them the Hollywood squares. We have about 25 chaplains wherever they're located around the world, and they're taking lessons in education with us in the Deputy Wing Chaplain course online right now. We are working to record as much content as we can, starting with all our OTS curriculum that we teach about 25 hours there. And one of a series of lessons that we teach are about how to perform military funerals so that you're in step with the honor guard and the other protocols that come with providing what a military funeral is. As we go forward and work with Chaplain Murdoch and the team, we're going to find out where we can have some support in those areas based on the jurisdictions that we're given in the Air Force. So I'm going to be quiet now and let you have maybe some questions, and I'll turn it back over to you, Chaplain Minor, to be the maestro of this process.
Well, thank you, sir. And the first question would be, you've done well to help us with chaplains as professionals, but you're also responsible for training religious affairs airmen. And in this class, we have what we now call character development instructors, and will soon be called chaplain support specialists. What are the unique skills that you're teaching to these young men and women coming in who don't go through any kind of religious vetting process the way that the chaplain does, and don't necessarily, I don't think they have endorsers to be a religious affairs airman. So based on no prior background, what are you teaching them to do, and what skill sets are they offering to the team?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for bringing that up. And let me just offer a sincere apology for not including you more in the discussion or my comments earlier. I apologize about that. That's I should have thought more about who my audience was. But there's some really fantastic news to describe here. So I'm not going to assume that folks out there understand what we use in the Air Force, which is a religious support team model. And that includes a religious affairs airman paired with a chaplain. It doesn't matter who's who. In fact, they can interchange from a staff because of availability, but they're paired together. They're given to a unit. Hey, this is your religious support team. So the first thing that comes with that for religious Affairs Airmen is they have confidentiality, just like the chaplain does. The chaplain has 100% confidentiality that when someone comes to her or him, same way they go to a religious affairs airman, him or her, in whatever setting, as long as they know that's a religious affairs airman and they know that, or that's a chaplain, and they engage that, they initiate that encounter, everything that's said after that, if a matter of conscience, is protected. Doesn't matter where they are, everything is protected. So they have confidentiality, and the privileged communication, which is what's taking place, belongs to the member. And they evoke that when they go up to the religious affairs airmen, because they see them all the time walking through the unit, and they say, "Hey, Staff Sergeant Daniels, you got a minute? I need to talk to you about something that's really been kind of preying on my mind." And at that point, pretty much that's it. You know, they have confidentiality. Now, what religious affairs airmen, they are not allowed to release any of that information. One of the caveats, I would say, the difference between the chaplain and the religious affairs airman at this point, encounters like that are probably going to precipitate additional encounters. What we cannot get into, though, with the religious affairs airmen is this appearance of formal ongoing counseling, because they're typically not required to be trained to do that. That is only with the chaplain. But that does not stop them from listening as much as they need to, and to whatever they hear, it's completely confidential. So that's the first thing. Secondly, our religious affairs airmen are highly trained, just extremely trained, and we're actually on the threshold of getting them some civilian certifications in crisis intervention. One of our senior enlisted advisors for the career field that works with Chaplain Scheich is already reached out to the associations in the civilian world about those who need that crisis intervention certification in the latest models. Well, they get that at the Chaplain Corps College when they come in for classes. And we also offer satellite type instruction as well, where we bring in the professionals so that they can be credentialed in a 3, 5, whatever day workshop that it demands. So those are some very unique skill sets that our enlisted members, our religious affairs airmen, bring. The third thing I would share with you is they have the ability with the chaplain, because of their expertise on various religions that, you know, a commander or a senior enlisted member may find in the unit. They have an expertise about the components of that religion, the constructs, what are the requirements that a commander would need to be aware of, so that if there's a conflict in mission and High Holy Day, so they with the chaplain would go in and advise on maybe the Jewish holy days and what are the requirements for that, so that the commander says, okay, you know, maybe I need to give them a different work shift so they can celebrate. And we would say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, that's a really good idea, and we could help you with that. So they're great advisors on religious behaviors, conduct, spiritual disciplines, things like that, that their members in the unit would want to take part in. And so they would go in and help with that with the chaplain. So I'll stop with that. There are some second and third degree type skill sets that they have as military members, but those are some of the bigger ones. I hope I answered your question.
You did great, sir, and thank you so much. There's so many of our members out there probably wondering why they, you know, looking at how you treat your religious affairs airmen and wondering what do we need to do to bring our own folks up to the same skill sets. The next question would be, would you be amenable to Civil Air Patrol Chaplain Corps producing 5 or 10 minute video introducing ourselves and introducing us to everyone who comes through your school?
Absolutely. In fact, I think that's a very innovative and creative model. The learning management system that we use for our students to log into pre-course and during the course would certainly accommodate that. We're looking for all kinds of content that would enhance that religious affairs airman and the chaplain when they go back to their base to apply what we're trying to teach them. And so I would say start developing your content. Thank you for putting it in concise formats. I would say you probably already know this, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it anyway because I'd feel better saying it. Start from the 101 level and say, who is the Civil Air Patrol? What do they do? And then what does the Chaplain Corps look like in the Civil Air Patrol? And how we could go find you in our local area. And, you know, how prolific is it? How many locations? And give them some guidance as though they don't know very much at all, that they could then go and find that office and get in touch with the Civil Air Patrol, either on social media, the Chaplain Corps there on social media, or actually physically going there and saying, hey, let's start a conversation and go from there. That's a very innovative idea, but please just keep the videos concise. Thanks.
Absolutely, sir. I'll turn it over to Chaplain Jeff Williams, who's watching our learning management systems for questions coming in. Chaplain Williams?
Yes, sir. Several questions, conflating a couple of them. Professionalism resources, other than the Abbott book, what would you suggest as basic resources, courses, or books at least, that you have found helpful or your chaplains have found helpful?
Well, wow, there's just a vast number. I can tell you this, for our basic chaplains, for counseling, we use the solution focus model. There are a lot of great text out there. What I will do to you, I will provide the actual title or titles that we use. I'll give those to Chaplain Minor and he can post those as he sees fit. We use some work by, if you're familiar with, oh man, the name escapes me now. Henry Cloud, probably one of the top 10 books I've ever read is his book called Integrity, subtitled The Courage to Meet the Demands of Reality, Integrity, by Henry Cloud. We use that as a baseline for emotional intelligence for our basic chaplains about what integrity internally looks like. It is not necessarily a faith-based book at all. I think he is a person of faith, but he is a psychologist. If you don't know Henry Cloud, we use that book as a baseline for our Chaplain Corps. We use the book on Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Lencioni, where he breaks down, hey, how do you know if you're a high-functioning team or not in your chapel? That's been a powerful book for us. I tell you what I could do is just give you maybe a bibliography to Chaplain Minor, and based on the subject that we use it for, and you guys can take advantage of that.
That is super. You had mentioned the funeral training that you're recording, and a couple of other questions that revolved around the idea, is it possible for CAP members to be able to audit courses? And, you know, specifically this funeral training, if we could get a hold of that for our people, that would be great.
So Chaplain Minor and I have talked, this was, I guess, the initial part of our discussions. And I think I would call it an anchor at this point. Absolutely. We are working to make that available, so that essentially what you would do, here's a couple things we have to have though. And Chaplain Minor is all over this. Again, these discussions started, what do you think, Tim? Maybe 30 days, 45 days ago. So he is making tremendous progress. There's a couple of framework things we need to develop, like how you get certified once you take the lesson. In other words, people have to observe you doing it. The movements, where to stand. There's lots of diagrams in it. There's videos. There's actual Chaplain Corps College instructors. It's like you're in the classrooms, essentially what we did when we recorded it. But to ensure that you are confident that you can go out and do it, you would need kind of some certifiers, I think, within your own ranks who have some of this experience. So we would be the provider of that content. And once we get linked up with the certification part of it, in terms of people saying, yeah, you're checked off. Again, remember, accountable set of standards, and that would come internally within your cohort. that's pretty much ready to go. Frankly, we just got to get you into Canvas based on the names that are put forth by Chaplain Minor. We're looking at other types of content that you could be trained in and essentially go and say, this is what we can offer. Right now, we're still working through some of the jurisdictional aspects. What would a commander expect? We don't want to put some things in jeopardy, like the confidentiality. We're researching through the legal means. If you're put in a situation where you're talking to airmen, do you have complete confidentiality as a Civil Air Patrol chaplain? So our JAGs, our lawyers are looking at that because we want to make this solid. Once we get going, we don't have to have gaps or stops or potholes along the way and get that stuff checked out. So as we introduce new content, we will let you know what that is through Chaplain Minor. We just don't know what is ahead because of the different jurisdictions between being a volunteer Civil Air Patrol chaplain and an Air Force chaplain, Guard Reserve, or active duty under orders. But that's an excellent question. Thank you.
Okay, I think that conflates most of the questions. You know, we've got, again, a bunch of chaplains and CDIs who are saying, how can we tap into becoming students? It's amazing to me that the first question that comes out of anybody's mouth is, what can we do to help and how do we get better training? As opposed to, what can you do for us? And I love it. It's all volunteer.
Chaplain Newton, just to let the students know that if they hang around for about 10 more minutes, we'll start talking about that very question.
Which is a good thing.
Yes.
I think Captain Parsons, Jessica style, has some questions in here as well.
Actually, sir, all of the questions in the chat seem to be directed on the exact same subject that we already just talked about, and I believe they were previously answered.
Very good.
Perfect.
Well, Chaplain Newton, thank you so very much. Chaplain Murdoch, sir, as always, you're the final word to every speaker, sir.
Thank you very much. It's really great, Chaplain Newton, to be able to have you with us. Thank you. We look forward to continuing to work together and to develop the programs as we have laid out before you, and as we're doing this wonderful cooperative and collaborative effort to see how we can work together to do the best we can for the airmen, as well as for our Civil Air Patrol airmen as well. And so thank you so much for what you're doing. One of the things that we are establishing in our new 80-1, our regulation, is that we will be renaming our character development instructors to chaplain support specialists, and we are working on the chaplain support team process that will put chaplain support teams in every squadron throughout the nation that we have. That's our goal. And so similar to what you're doing with your religious support teams. And so we're looking at that joint ministry, and we're doing it with our emergency services school, and we're going to be bringing it all the way across so that all of our people are trained, so that a chaplain shows up at some situation and a chaplain support specialist shows up, they can still work as a team because they've both been trained appropriately, and they don't have to be from the same unit or from the same region or the same wing to do the job. So thank you for your willingness to help us achieve that goal, and we're looking forward to working together.
Chaplain Murdoch, let me make one last plug here. A target of opportunity, as we say, yes. Because of just the powerful interest. I would encourage folks to go out and find the Chaplain Corps College Facebook page. If you can connect to that, we just started that page about 2 weeks ago, and it is going to be a platform where we're going to message all the new innovative content. I mean, we'll do some house cleaning in there too, but it's specifically designed to message to the Air Force Chaplain Corps what's coming at the college. We'll maybe get some recordings of some speakers that we have But it's just going to way to stay connected with the progress that we're making out to the field. And I think that might be a neat way for folks to get a lot of their questions answered, but also stay in tune with what we're doing.
Great. I think Chaplain Minor, you're able to pass that all out to that connectivity information out to the schoolhouse, right?
Absolutely, sir. I'll be connecting our page to their page within minutes. So
All right. Very
The-
good.
The
Thank you for
link to it will be in Moodle within, a minute and a half.
very good. We work very fast, Chaplain Newton.
So let me make one comment about that. Unfortunately, there were 2 pages out there. The first one is no longer active, but we can't get it turned off. It's Fort Jackson when we were up in South Carolina. We are now at Maxwell Air Force Base, but you should be able to see the difference. One has a lot more on it. The one we're looking at is the United States Air Force Chaplain Corps College.
Great. Thank you again, sir. Well, again, our privilege, and there is a spiffy Civil Air Patrol Chaplain Corps coin on its way to you.
Oh, God bless you. And I'll put it in my coin rack. Thank you so much.
Very good, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's take 5 minutes and then we'll be back to answer some more of these exciting questions. And our topic is going to be ethos. 5 minutes, please.
The link to the Facebook page will be under announcements, just to let you know.
Thank you. All right. 4 minutes and counting down. Yes, all right.
Your mic is on, sir.
I know.
Yep. I'm going to take advantage of those 4 and I'll be right back.
Very good.